When you ask people, are you going to go to heaven? People most of the time will say yes, or I hope that I will. And if you were to ask them the next question of how good does a person have to be to get into heaven, you get some interesting answers. In fact, Erwin, one of your staff members, did a survey at one of our Christian Booksellers Association conventions, found out an interesting answer. Tell us about it.
Well, what he did is he went from booth to booth. Now, these are the theologians who write the books that the rest of us are supposed to be reading. And he asked a question, how good do you have to be to get into heaven? And the results were surprising. Many people said, well, I hope not too good or I won't make it. Other people said, well, Christians aren't perfect. They're just forgiven. Of about 10 or 12 people, only one gave a biblical answer, namely that you have to be as perfect as God. Obviously. Now, John, listening today, there may be those who are Protestants, there may be Catholics. But Protestantism and Catholicism has at least agreed on one point, actually many points, but they've all agreed that of course you have to be as perfect as God to get into heaven. How can a righteous God accept sinners unless they are as perfect as He Himself is? It only makes sense. It's not only logical, it's also biblical.
The problem is if you actually think about that and you were to say, am I perfect?
Well, you can imagine that there are people listening to this program who are ready to turn it off. They say, this is ridiculous because who has that kind of perfection? Who is perfect? And could I say that if there's a man who's listening who thinks that he is perfect, all that he has to do is to check with his wife and she'll help him with his theology and realize that he's in deep trouble. All of us are in deep trouble because we are so far from perfection.